So you guys are opening up your Lynx assignment, and I'm just going to start a new one because I wasn't working on this last week. And we're going to go through creating the Lynx assignment, and then we're going to go through taking our style sheet, organizing it, and moving it to an external style sheet. You guys have got a project coming up next week, and we'll go over it next week or the week after, and we'll go over it. But moving forward, you're going to be required to have an external style sheet. So I'm going to show you how to convert one that has the internal styles at the heading to an external style sheet and talk about why. And I'm going to leave the recording going for this. So people who miss it, it's going to be a little boring, but it's better than not being able to see things because you're out sick. So I'm going to start to try and do that with my lectures where you guys can at least get the audio of them. I have a GoPro I may bring in and just leave pointed at the board for when I'm lecturing on the board. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so open up your Lynx assignment. I'm going to catch up with you for a second here, and I'm just going to put in a and so I will make all sorts of link puns. I apologize. No, I don't. I'm not sorry. I think I'm funny. If you don't think I'm funny, I'm sorry that you found a teacher who thinks that they're funny. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting in an H1, and it's just going to be useful links. And I'm not going to do, you had to do like 15 or so of them. I'm not going to do all of those. But I'm just going to go through what you should have gotten done on Thursday. And so you can fix things if you didn't. But it should have been broken into like 4 or 5 primary sections. And so it should have been something that you were interested in. I think that I had you guys, my sample I believe was useful website links, but there's all sorts of things that I'm interested in, and you could do things on your different hobbies. So I might have things, if I were doing hobbies, I might have cycling, swing, dancing, so you should be doing your own thing. They shouldn't be mirroring mine. I doubt anybody has that particular set of hobbies other than me. You might have one of them, but you're unlikely to have all of them. So you start by putting these in, and we're going to create a navigation at the top of the page. And we specifically want to put it into a nav section. And you'll see why in a minute. So in my nav section, I'm going to have links to those. So I'm going to have cycling. I'm going to put in a pipe. I actually need to do each one of these separate because these are going to become links. So it's going to be, and I'm not putting this into a paragraph format intentionally. I could do them as a list. That's actually the way it's generally done, but I don't want them to be in list format. I want them to appear side by side. So I'm going to put in A times 5 tab. That gives me 5 links. These will appear side by side. And so I'm going to have to match them to an ID. So I typically make the ID match, and I'm going to use all lowercase. So in my H2, I add an ID equals, and it will be cycling. And then I'm going to have an ID here. Now this one, I have a couple choices. I could do swing, you don't want to use spaces. I could do swing, I could do dancing. I'm going to do swing dancing with a hyphen. In whatever format you take, and I'm going to tell you this is the best format because Google wants you to use hyphens in links to indicate spaces. And if there was a search engine that was, if somebody was looking for swing dancing, the more places that it comes up in the text as links, things like that, the higher you'll rank on Google. So I'm trying to teach you good habits. So your links should be complete and descriptive, and they should use hyphens for multi-word ones. So here I'm going to have ID equals weight lifting ID equals gluten-free baking, and ID equals remodeling. So what you'll notice with the IDs is that they're inside the H2 tag. They're modifying that H2 tag. And then up here, I have my heading 1, and I'm going to add an ID to this of top. Because usually I will have a link lower in the page that will take me back to the top of the page. So I can link to any ID on the page. One of the important things to note as far as the difference between an ID and a class is that an ID has to be unique on that page. It can only be used once. It's important for things like this, and also we can use JavaScript to program to links. We won't do that in this class or to IDs, but it's something that you need to know. So your address would go in here where you're linking to. The pound sign means we're linking to the current page. And then we would have the actual ID name next to it. And then between the closing bracket and the opening one for the end of the anchor is the text that will appear on screen. Now you'll notice after the anchor closes, I'm going to put a space and a pipe. Actually, I'm not going to do that. If I were going to do that as a list of just words, if it were at the bottom of my page and I were doing a footer navigation, I would do that. Here, I'm actually going to style those buttons, and I'm going to take control of space and make them look like buttons. So this isn't going to appear to do anything yet. So what I'm going to do so that there's enough space in here is I'm going to put in I usually like to do these as unordered lists containing list item containing anchor times 5. And I'm going to drop that in as a comment too. That way you know that's the emit command that I used to do this. And that makes it very quick where I can just fill in the links and the information. And so for right now, I'm not going to put in the real links. What you would do here is you would go out and get actual links from the internet and copy and paste them. I'm not going to take the time to do that. My assumption is you guys know how to find what you're looking for. So cycling, I might do safety. I might do trek because it's the kind of bike I've got. I might do Illinois trails because I ride trails. I don't like sharing the road with cars. I might do maintenance. I might do gear. So I would go look up those links and fill that in the rest of the way. And again, I'm not going to take the time in class to go do a web search, but I would then drop these into here. Now these are going to act like links, but currently they're just linking to themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that into each of the other areas and hit tab. And because I don't want to go through the time of filling these all out, I'm just going to put in link, because I don't need to be creative and tell you what my links are for swing dancing. If you really care, go join Northwest Swing on Facebook. And so I will just put these as link. I'm just looking for dummy stuff in here to show you what we're going to do with the formatting, because the CSS is really where I want to spend a lot of my time. But I got to do a couple other things here too. And copy and paste is a programmer's best friend. So at the end of my unordered list, I'm going to add in a paragraph, I'm going to add a link. And it's going to be to the #, which is the current page, top, which is the ID of the top of the page, and it's going to actually say top. And I'm going to copy and paste this. And I don't expect you guys to be following along, and I am recording this if you guys want to watch the lecture again later. Sometimes people find that useful. But this is pretty much where you should have been before you came in today. And if you didn't finish, you've got till Thursday to get it done, and you're welcome to watch the recording more than once. But this is roughly where I expected you to be when we got in today, except you'd have actual links. Because I really wanted to focus on the styling, and I wanted to focus on some of the more complex things that we do with links. So when we're linking to something in a folder, if we had a local link, we would and this part you won't add, this is just part of the lecture. So if I wanted to link to something in the same site, I wouldn't go out and put in the full address. It would be in relation to where we currently are. So I wouldn't put in http:/McHenry County College / whatever. I wouldn't do the whole MCC thing. If I'm looking for a page in the same folder, I just put the name of the page. So let's say I had a page for Tai Chi.html, another of my hobbies. I might have now if I have it inside another folder, let's say that I have a folder for vacation destinations. So if I have another folder, it would be vacations, and then, where did I go last? We'll say Washington, D.C. So this indicates that this is a folder inside of my folder, and then that page inside the folder. Now the slightly more complex one would be .. That moves up a folder. Index.html. That would take me to the index page I'm making for my entire site here. And going forward, I expect you guys to include that in all of your footers. A link back to the Web 105 homepage. And we're going to be creating that as homework. We'll start on it today, possibly. We may do it on Thursday. It's in your homework, but we will work on it in class. So the difference is this is a file in the same folder. This is a file that's inside a folder inside the same folder. So you put the folder name and then that should have had a .html. And this takes you up a level. .. moves you up a folder. So you go out of the folder you're currently in and you're looking at the level above it. And then we'd look for the index.html. So I'm going to save this because I want to play with the styling of it. Okay, So I'm going to, and I would encourage you, this is not play along, this is a lecture, but again, I am recording it. I'm going to go into Chrome, and you could use Chrome, you could use Firefox, and I'm going to open my file, which should be in my Web 105 folder, and it should be, I have no idea why I'm not seeing it. So this is where you go and troubleshoot. So I did, oops, I put it inside initial. We just want to be at the top level. Sometimes that's hard to fix in here, so I'm actually going to close this for a minute, and I'm going to go out to, I'm going to hit cancel. I find moving things around inside of our programming development environment to be tedious, so I'm going to go to the desktop, I'm going to go to Web 105 Ingle, and I accidentally put it in my initial folder, and so I'm going to take Lynx. I'm going to do control, actually I'm just going to do, I'm just going to do a control C, which is, no, I want to cut control X, which is, because if I copied it, I'd still have it in here. I want to move it. So I'm going to go back up a level, and now I'm going to do a control V, and I'm forgetting that I'm not on a PC. So I'm going to remember that I'm on a Mac. I'm going to do Command X, and then I'm going to go up, and I'm going to do Command V, and that should have worked, and it didn't. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat. So the other thing you can do is open up 2 copies of that folder, theoretically, or, it's being a pain in the ass, I can just drag it from Lynx into Web 105. Yay! See, more than one way. And as long as you get the desired result, there's Lynx. Now I can go back into my Visual Studio Code, and I can open my folder, and I can open Web 105, and I'm actually going to go right in and open up the Lynx folder. There's no images here or anything I need to worry about. Go into index.html. So normally, we're going to be styling these, because we're styling. Oh, and I forgot one of my favorite jokes. With all those links somewhere in here, there should be that. Okay. If you didn't get it, ask somebody who laughed later, because I don't explain my jokes. Once I explained to a class, I made a pun and said, okay, because only half the class laughed. That was a 2/3 pun, PU. And then I actually had to write it out on the board and break it down, and I decided I was never going to do that again. All right, so I'm going to put in the style element in the head section. And let's talk about this a little bit, because this is really what my focus is on today. How we're styling things that are nested and other things like that, because we have all sorts of links on this page. And I specifically want to style the links that are inside my heading tags. And so I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to do nav A. And that's letting me just style the links that are inside the nav, because I don't want every link on my page to look like a button. But I do want these to look like a button. So I'm going to start with things like padding. And padding is going to be the area around, that's going to tell me what size my button is. And on the top, I want it to be 5px, that's top and bottom. And to do the left and right, I'm going to want 10px. And if I put in padding, then any background color is going to be Rebecca purple. You'll find that I sort of default to MCC colors because that's where we're at. And then my color is going to be gold. And remember, color is your font color. My text decoration is going to be none, so that we don't get that default underline. And then I want my margin to be 10px top and bottom and 20px, and we'll see if I'm happy with this. I probably won't be, but that's okay. This is just my first step. But once I get everything in here, I can then modify it. So I'm going to do 20px, and that's my spacing above and below. It's spacing me between the next element. And I'm going to do a border 2px 2px solid gold. And so your options are solid dash dotted, and when I see this, I am so old that all I can think of is the solid gold dancers, and probably only one person in the class gets that reference. Maybe two. Okay. My jokes are getting too dated. So at this point, I'd want to go test and see how that looks. So I'm going to save it, because you have to save before you can test. And you notice that we're inside the HTML, inside the head, inside style, inside nav 8. Nav 8, this is a really nice development environment, shows you where things are at. But I want to do things where I can change them on the fly and get my styling to be better. So I'm going to do File, Open File, and I'm in Chrome, but you could do this in Firefox. And I'm going to go into Lynx, and I'm going to go into my index page, and I'm going to open it. And I'm going to see how it looks. Okay. Looks like crap. I'm totally fine with that. Let's see if it works, though. For modeling, takes me to modeling. Top, takes me back to the top. Weightlifting, takes me down to weightlifting. I want this to be a little bit more apparent. This is a really ugly page. Let's see what we can do to fix it. So I want to go into Inspect, and that's going to open this up where I can sort of do my styling while I work. So I can go into my sources, index.html. Oh, it's not showing it. Index.html, not showing it. Okay, so I'm going to go into I actually want to do another thing first. So I'm going to go back out here. And we've been doing this the whole way along, where we're doing the style in here. It's actually easier to modify, and everything is actually easier if you don't do things like this. But instead do no, that's not style. So up here it would be link, relationship equals style sheet, and we're going to put it into styles.css. CSS stands for cascading style sheets. So we're going to link to an external style sheet that I still need to create. So if we checked, since I removed those styles, if I refresh this, nothing's going to happen because I forgot to hit save. So I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to have to refresh, and you'll see all my styles will go away. And then I'm going to go to, and notice these are different colors. Why? I clicked on them. Those links are visited. So those are links I've visited. So now I'm going to go into here, create a new sheet. Now when you move it, you get rid of these HTML style tags. And these should be, oh, they reloaded. So one of the things that will make life way, way easier for you, in the Mac it's in Preferences and Settings, and the text editor. No, I want the font. And so font size is at 26. Oh, it should be formatting on save. And that should work for the CSS as well. Okay, so those are set right. But these should actually be, this should align with the beginning of the page. And that's not resetting everything. Shift tab moves these back, by the way. When I grabbed all of them, I was doing Shift tab to move them all at once. So I'm going to want to add a bunch of things to this, but right now I'm going to save it. And when I go back here, I'm going to refresh this. And now you'll see that only my HTML is here. And then I've got my styles.css. And I can do things here like going, oh, I don't like the purple, that or the gold, that's kind of too much. Well, I don't like that either. Let's just pick another color. And so I can slide it around and pick a completely different color. Let's get closer to ivory. And I can change the colors right in here. So that changed my text color. Maybe Rebecca Purple isn't dark enough. So I can click on that and I could go through and open the color picker and go, oh, I want that to be a little bit darker. And it changes it for me. And I like my buttons to have rounded corners. So I'm going to do border radius 20px. Ah, that's better. Padding's not as much as I want. I want there to be more padding on either side there. So the 5 on top and bottom is okay, but I want 15. Well, that's good. And then, oh, I don't like the H1. And so I can go into my H1 and I can do color. And I'm going to use that same background color I've got, 461E6F. And then I'm going to text align center. And then I'm going to font family. Oh, let's do fantasy. By the way, I'm not trying to make a really attractive page here. I'm just trying to make it different. I actually don't like that font, but we're going to get into Google Fonts later. Font size 3M. That means 3 times the normal size on the page. We could do this as 300%, and it would be exactly the same thing. Font weight 900. I don't like the background color of the page. So now I usually do these in a specific order. I like to start with the body first. I don't know why I just do. So body. And I like doing this while I can see the changes. White, that's too stark for me. Color, or I'm sorry, background. Ivory. That's a little softer and a little better. Font family. Sans serif. Better. Font size 1.5M. I want it to be a little bit bigger. Oh, good. And I did this on purpose. I was trying to get them to do that because I wanted you to see how to fix it. You fix that one with a line height in the nav. Line height 2.5. So you can see when you can actually see this as you make the changes, it's a lot easier to style because you can tell, do I like it, do I not like it? And then I'm going to want to hover because right now nothing happens here. So I'm going to want a nav a colon hover. And this is going to be what happens when I do this, because right now it doesn't change. And so I'm just going to want to change the color to 461E6F, getting that from the background here. And I'm going to want the background to change to FLEEAE. And I want this one to change to, I don't want it to be gold, I want it to be that same color. Pound sign FLEEAE. That's not coming up as a color. So copy and paste, best friend. I must have some sort of typo in there. Okay, yep, it's there. It's kind of hard to see. We'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Better. I might play with my lists, and so I'm not sure if this is right. I can never remember if I need to do it here or for the unordered list. List There, I just took off the bullets because I want it in bullet format, but I don't want it to be, I don't actually want to see the bullets. And I think they're too close together. Better. So I, so. Let me try. I don't know. No problem. Thank you for saying something. And again, this is being recorded where you can go back and watch it. And I'll do a printout for you guys when I'm done too. So this makes it easier for me to do the styling. And I believe in one of these, you can actually just hit save. I think it's Firefox, but here I'm just going to do Command A, Command C, and then I'm going to hop back out here. I'm going to do Command A, Command V, and then I'm going to apply those styles that I tested. So I don't have to recreate those. Once I've tested them, I just select them all, and I copy and I paste them here. And this helps me find errors. This is an error because there needs to not be a space with the hover. Some of them want you to do this. It's supposed to work either way. Oh, because it's a 1, not an L. Ha! That makes sense. Slightly dyslexic. So that gets rid of all my errors. And then, of course, you want to save. And then I can go out here and I can refresh, which should have cleared these, except that I fixed it. And you'll see that error I had with the spacing. Everything's fixed. There aren't any errors now. And so that gives me pretty much as far as I would expect you guys to get on styling this at this point. And I will give you that code. And so these, if I had a real link, they'd be out here. And now, when I do the mouse over works. That's about as far as I expected you guys to get with that assignment. Any other questions on that? I'll print the code for you.
So after you change the styling and the styles file, then do you copy that and put it back in the index, or you just leave it separate?
That's an excellent. You want to leave it separate and point to it, because let's say that you had 150 pages that were all using the same style sheet. You don't want to copy and paste it into each 150 pages. You want to point at one place. So if you make a change one place, you just hit refresh and it changes everywhere. And that's the beauty of having an external style sheet. It can style every single page that's pointing to it. And you can have more than one. We'll get into that later, but that's why we're moving to external, is because the next thing we're doing is we're moving to a multiple page format. In fact, I'm just going to demo that now, and you'll see it more than once, and you don't have to do this. But let's say that I was doing these as separate pages. Or here, we'll do the ones I created. So notice these came up next to each other as well. And because I didn't put them inside of paragraphs. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix these here. So, oh, one of the things I love is that I like to, when I'm working, do these side by side. So I have the HTML on one side and the CSS on the other. Cool trick. You can do that by hitting this little Windows thing. Oh, you can have 3. 3 is confusing. Let's just close all. Okay, so usually I will have, and I prefer to have my HTML on the left and my CSS on the right. And that way I can go back and forth and see what I'm pointing to, because then if I want to do something specific like style and ID, I can. So I'm going to look at these that I have down here, and I could have put these in an unordered list format to match the rest. In fact, I think I will. And then I can drop these in. This just keeps it in the same format as the rest of the page. And let's say I wanted to keep this look and feel for the rest of the pages in my site. There's lots and lots of ways to go about that, but typically what I would do is I take my index page, because I will create one page, do all the styling, get happy with it, and then I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to name it based on the other pages in the site. What were they? Tai Chi. We'll do, yeah, Tai Chi was at the same level. So I will save it as Tai Chi.html. Let's make sure that's right. Yep. So now I have this extra page here, and I'm going to go into the Tai Chi page. And it should be exactly the same, and it's now Tai Chi HTML. And I would potentially pull everything else out. And one of the things you actually want to get in the habit of, so instead of useful links, I would change this up here to be Tai Chi. And we'll get rid of the nav. But by doing it this way, I now have a blank format that's pointing at the same styles sheet. And if I had navigation for a whole site, I would have left it alone. But now if I go out here and refresh, I can take it to the Tai Chi page. And you'll see that it is all of the same styles. And if I'd had a nav, I'd leave it here. And I would just copy one that works, and then I just change the content on it. Because the biggest, most time-consuming thing I've got is usually setting up my CSS. So that shows you how to set it up and do it external. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to turn off QuickTime.